Today I've got some really wild stories, starting with AMD winning out. Don't even touch Nvidia's new GPU. AMD's about to change everything, and their new Ryzen gaming monster just came to more places. Welcome everyone to Gamer Meld. Okay, it's news time, and first up for today, there's a new exclusive from Reuters that, well, let's just say Intel could have been in Sony's next generation PlayStation 6. As you can see right here, this is a summary. It says it, I'll get into it just a little bit, but it actually says Intel lost the PlayStation 6 chip contract to AMD in 2022. And this actually tells us a couple things. For one, you may have thought that it was a given that Sony was going to be releasing their PlayStation 6 with an AMD CPU, and you'd be forgiven for that, but it hasn't actually been confirmed. In fact, PlayStation 6 hasn't even been confirmed yet, so now we know there is in fact going to be a PlayStation 6. Of course, that's not too much of a surprise, but if you were around during the PlayStation 5 release, some people were trying to say that, oh, this is the last one just because obviously cloud gaming is going to take over. Well, here we are. It hasn't, and once again, we're talking a PlayStation 6, and that is also confirmed. Another thing that's pretty surprising is just the fact that Intel was actually trying to win it. It says right here, the effort by Intel to win out over Advanced Micro Devices in a competitive bidding process to supply the design for the forthcoming PlayStation 6 chip and Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Co. as the contract manufacturer would have amounted to billions of dollars of revenue and fabricating thousands of silicon wafers a month, two sources said. And in fact, believe it or not, Intel and AMD were the final two contenders in that bidding process for the contract. But ultimately, as you know, AMD won out, and this does actually sound true because Intel themselves responded to the story, and it says, we strongly disagree with this characterization, but are not going to comment about any current or potential customer conversations. We have a very healthy customer pipeline across both our products and foundry business, and we are squarely focused on innovating to meet their needs. Basically, they did disagree, but they didn't actually disagree with the story. They disagreed with the characterization of the story. With that said, I will at least say this. They discussed the fact that the contract manufacturer would have amounted to billions of dollars of revenue and fabricating thousands of silicon wafers a month. But at the same time, we know that chip manufacturers do not make a lot of money off of hardware sales for being inside of consoles. I mean, the console manufacturers don't make a lot of money on that. Almost all of the money comes from software. And we know that that's why Nvidia ultimately stopped making chips for consoles as well. And maybe Intel decided against it. But of course, given the fact that they're having so many issues right now with revenue, with losing tons and tons of money, maybe, just maybe, they should have taken this offer. And next up for today, Nvidia is losing their mind. Now, before I get to that, a lot of you know how much I love Micro Center. It was where I bought the parts for my first ever build. And one of the biggest reasons it's so amazing is because it's a physical store that has all the parts you could hope for your own PC build, along with really knowledgeable staff. It's just amazing. But it's even better than a lot of people realize because they also have some of the best prices in the industry. And today they've sponsored this video so I can tell you about their new clearance savings event, which brings with it huge discounts on all kinds of items all month long. I'm talking cases, coolers, monitors, and more. So you can save even more with their already amazing prices. And if you haven't been to Micro Center yet, they're opening up new stores all the time, like their most recent Miami store. So now's the time to find your nearest Micro Center and save money today. Just check out my links in the description below. Now back to the story. Just recently, I discussed Nvidia's new RTX 4070 GDDR6 and the fact that we finally got some performance numbers versus the GDDR6X. And if you didn't see that video, basically at 1080p, there's pretty much zero difference, and at 1440p, but when we move to 4K, there does become a bit of a difference here, going as high as within Metro Exodus Extreme preset, we're talking 89.6% of the performance of GDDR6X. And that's why at the time, the fact that some of these GPUs, or a lot of these GPUs, were coming out for the same price as the 6X model was pretty absurd in my opinion, but it's actually gotten even worse. Because according to this news story, it says 4060, but they are referring to the 4070. EU retailers are selling Nvidia's 4070 GDDR6 at higher prices than the GDDR6X model. That's right, some EU retailers are literally selling it for even more. This comes from WCCF Tech, and according to them, these are the lowest prices for these GPUs in Europe. And as you can see right here, this is the Zeus Dual GeForce 4070 Evo OC. This is the GDDR6X model. And then this right here is the exact same thing, except it's the regular GDDR6. And this one comes in at $599 versus $536. That's a massive difference. And of course, if we go through a lot more of these, and there's even more other than this that I've seen, basically these new GPUs in a lot of places are selling for more than the better GPU. It's absolutely wild here. And with this, I would definitely say do not purchase, especially if we're talking for more money, Nvidia's new GDDR6 version of the RTX 4070. And next up, if you saw one of my recent videos, you know that we basically saw that AMD's upcoming Strix Halo APUs could actually be supported in ROCm. Actually, they are. This story you can see that says it was originally from David Wang, who posted some pictures which reveal that that GPU has received official support for ROCm. And of course, for those who still may not know, ROCm is basically AMD's software suite for GPUs, similar to Nvidia's CUDA. And CUDA is basically the #1 reason pretty much everyone in AI and tons of different industries exclusively use Nvidia. So any kind of using the Radeon Open Compute, which is what ROCm is, in more GPUs, especially iGPUs, somewhere Nvidia doesn't have any kind of presence in the industry for that, this is definitely a big win. Not only that, but I talked about someone who basically said that we can port this over to all of their newest APUs. Well, I've got some wild news here that I feel like almost no one's talking about that I do think is a really big deal. Now, before I get to that really quickly, you have to first know that AMD is opening a new engineering design center in Serbia. And because of that, Tech Power Up actually interviewed AMD's senior vice president and chief software officer at that new Serbian center, or at least is a big part of that center. And during that interview, he said something extremely interesting to say the least. As you can see right here, it says, also the cost of that access is pretty high. We are bringing ROCm as a subsystem on the Radeon graphics products, desktop graphics products, or any Radeon APU powering desktops and notebooks. And then Tech Power Up further confirmed this by saying, so AMD's strategy is to provide ROCm support across the entire stack, edge to core to cloud. All of these cases, to which he states, correct. Basically, this recent report that we were discussing is absolutely correct, but it's even bigger than that because, at least according to this, it absolutely sounds like AMD is bringing this to basically everything. And that, of course, means Nvidia may need to start getting a little worried. And lastly for today, in yet another one of my recent videos, to which obviously if you aren't subscribed, you definitely want to do that to stay up to date with all the latest PC hardware news. Either way, in that video, I showed a little bit of a preliminary testing from Tom's Hardware of AMD's new 7600X3D. That epic CPU that's only $300. And yes, it does lose to the more expensive 7800X3D, but this is a $300 CPU that can beat the $14,900K. With that said, I do, as always, want to put this little disclaimer on there. They used Expo overclocking memory on the 7600X3D, but they did not overclock the $14,900K. This was just something that they really needed to get out. I'm assuming they had a deadline on it, so keep that in mind, but I highly doubt it'll make that much of a difference. Even if they're neck and neck, we're still talking about a $300 CPU. With that said, the one downside of this is still the fact that this was only sold in Micro Center. So once again, if you have one near you, you definitely want to go. But then, not too long after the release, it became available in Germany, though exclusively at Mine Factory. Well, it looks like it's now available in China, or at least it will be September 20th. With that said, it does seem like they're only going to start selling it at JD.com, so it does appear like while it is available in more markets, it is still exclusive to certain retailers, but with these CPUs getting out more and more, it should make it more readily available on sites like eBay, as well as some other retailers to potentially be able to get it, just because it does appear like AMD has way more of these CPUs than they did for the last X3D chip that was exclusive to Micro Center. So if you don't have a Micro Center near you, maybe, just maybe, you'll get a chance to pick one up before long. So while that does it for today, do you think Nvidia is about to lose their monopoly? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to check out Micro Center's new deals down in the description below. And as always, have a great day.